Whispers at 3:13. It was always the same time, 3:13 a.m., when the whispers would begin, soft at first like wind brushing against old wood, but then they'd rise, like dozens of mouths pressed against the walls, whispering in tones not quite human, and Emma, who had only moved into her new apartment a week ago, thought it was her imagination or the old pipes in the building, but on the seventh night, when she pressed her ear to the wall, she realized the whispers were saying her name, slowly, lovingly, like a long, lost friend greeting her after death. Emma, Emma, and she had never told her name to anyone in the building. She had just moved from another city after her fiancé died in a car crash, and this was supposed to be her fresh start. But this apartment, this place, it felt wrong from the very first night. The shadows moved even when the light didn't. Her phone battery died only after midnight, and her dreams were filled with a door that kept opening in her sleep. And every time it opened, something got a little closer, a little clearer, until the seventh night, when she woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, only to find her front door slightly ajar and her hallway filled with muddy footprints leading from the door to her bed and then vanishing. And she lived on the 10th floor, with no balcony, no fire escape, no logical way for anyone to be inside, and yet the door opened every night at exactly 3:13, not before, not after, and it only stayed open for 13 seconds before slowly creaking shut on its own. She started locking it with chains, deadbolts, alarms. Nothing worked, the door always opened, and the whispers always came, closer now, more voices, sometimes crying, sometimes laughing, and once, they just repeated a single sentence. "He is not dead." At first, she thought it was just grief playing tricks on her, because she hadn't been the same since Liam died, her fiancé, her everything, taken in a blink while she was on the phone with him. His voice saying, "Someone's in the road," and then static, and now this apartment, this cursed place, felt like it was trying to pull her back into that moment, because some nights, she'd hear Liam's voice in the whispers, calling her like he used to when he came home late. "Emma? Babe? You awake?" And once, she heard him cry, not like a man, but like a child lost in the dark, and she began recording every night, setting up cameras, trying to catch what happened at 3:13, but every morning, the footage would be corrupted, scrambled, except for a few frames showing a dark figure standing by her bed, tall, with no face, just a smooth, shifting surface like oil on water, and its hands were wrong. Too many fingers, all bending backwards, and it always stood still, staring at her sleeping body. And one night, when she dared to pretend to be asleep while keeping one eye half open, she saw it, not on a screen, not through a lens, but in real life, standing right next to her, and it whispered in her ear in Liam's voice, "Come with me," and when she turned, it vanished, leaving behind only the smell of burnt hair and a single muddy footprint on her white sheets. She started researching the apartment, but there was no record of it in city files, no previous tenant names. Even her landlord had vanished, his number disconnected, the office empty, and she was starting to believe the apartment didn't exist at all, or that she didn't. And on the 13th night, the whispers didn't wait. They started at 2 a.m., and they didn't stop. They filled every corner of the apartment, so loud she thought her ears would bleed. And then came the knocking, 13 knocks, slow, heavy, echoing through her bones, and then silence, followed by a voice, his voice. "Emma, please open the door." And she ran to it, terrified but hopeful, thinking maybe, just maybe, he was alive. Maybe the apartment was a doorway, a portal, something unholy but promising, and she opened the door at exactly 3:13 a.m., and the hallway was dark, longer than usual, stretching into blackness, and at the end stood Liam, or something wearing his face, smiling too wide, his eyes too still, and he raised his hand and pointed behind her, and she turned and saw herself, sleeping in bed, peaceful, unaware, and she realized she wasn't in her body anymore. She was outside, watching herself, and then the version of her in bed opened its eyes and smiled. But it wasn't her smile, it was the thing's, the one with the wrong hands and the smooth face, and it waved at her, mocking, and slammed the door, and since that night, no one's seen Emma, but sometimes, tenants on the 10th floor say they hear whispers behind the walls, calling them softly, sweetly, and sometimes they dream of a door that opens at 3:13, and if they look long enough into their mirrors, they don't see their reflection, but hers, screaming silently, begging them not to open it.